Hello everyone, Tawana Michelle here, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Coach, mental health therapist, and certified trauma therapist. And today I am back. I am happy to be back. I took a short break for a couple of weeks. Life has been lifing. And so I am back today and I want to talk to you guys about what happens when you depend on another person for your peace and happiness. Now let's talk briefly about some of the reasons that may happen. The first term that comes to me is codependency. Codependency is when we tend to find our sense of self, our worth in other people. We seek validation through others. We try to control our interpersonal experiences so that we feel emotionally safe, so that we feel secure in our relationships, to try and avoid abandonment and rejection. And all of that stuff doesn't work, right? There are so many reasons for that. A lot of it comes from family of origin issues, family of origin dysfunction, attachment trauma, betrayal trauma, so many reasons that one can feel unsafe in relationships and feel insecure and struggle with just finding their own worth within themselves, their own validation within themselves. And so we look outward for that. And that can be so extremely emotionally and psychological damaging. And it also can cause us to find ourselves in these patterns of these unhealthy and toxic relationships. We don't want that. So I have a list of things here that I wrote down. I don't know how many, but I took some notes so that I don't miss anything that I want to share with you guys. So the first thing that I have here is that you lose power over your life. That is so important, y'all. If you've ever been in a toxic, dysfunctional, abusive relationship, you know one of the main feelings that you have is a sense of powerlessness and helplessness. You feel like there is nothing that you can do to change your situation. When we seek peace and happiness and approval outside of ourselves, there is that same sense of helplessness and powerlessness because we are just kind of going with the wind, any way the wind blows. We have people in our lives, usually people that are closest to us, telling us who we are, telling us whether or not we are worthy, showing us that through direct and indirect experiences. And it makes us completely dependent on the perception of someone else. So someone else has to see us in a positive light. Someone else has to see us as valuable. Someone else has to see us as worthy in order for us to be able to see ourselves in that way. One of the things that I tell clients a lot when they talk about that sense of powerlessness and helplessness, especially in relationships, is that it is completely an illusion. You have never lost power. You've simply given power away. All you have to do is recognize it's not that easy. I say all you have to do. It's really about working on getting to a place of radical self-acceptance, radical self-love, so that you are the sole determinant of your worth and not anyone else. And when you do that, you kind of take your power back, although you never really lost. The second thing I have here is that you ignore red flags. Your peace and happiness is contingent upon someone else, how they're behaving, how they're treating you, how they perceive you. Then you're going to ignore red flags. You're going to overlook mistreatment, disrespect, perhaps even abuse, because your very emotional, psychological, and sometimes even physical survival depends on this person. So you may overlook patterns of harmful behavior that you otherwise would not if you didn't need this person's approval so much. And also with that, you're going to have difficulty setting boundaries. If you need someone in your life, if that person is necessary for you to feel happy, for you to feel peace, for you to feel contentment, for you to feel whole, then you're going to have a hard time setting boundaries with them. One of the main reasons we struggle with setting boundaries, it's not really about the boundary itself. Even though that can feel awkward, that can feel uncomfortable. If you've never really set boundaries like that, then having to do that, having to assert yourself and having to say, I don't like when this happens. This is not acceptable. I am not going to continue to allow you to treat me in this way. If you continue to do this, then I am going to step away from this relationship. that can feel uncomfortable for some. Some say it feels like an ultimatum, it feels mean, it feels rude. It is not. It is taking care of yourself and it is setting boundaries. The risk that comes along with setting boundaries is loss. And that's a real thing. But the good news is that people who don't respect your boundaries, do we really want them in our lives anyway? So that might not be a loss. I mean, obviously it's a loss. But ultimately, you sort of lose them and gain yourself, your sense of self-respect and your confidence because you're able to set that boundary. And the next thing that I have here is very similar to what I've already said. When you are searching for peace and happiness outside of yourself, then you become a people pleaser. You seek validation, you seek approval. And again, that means you are giving someone the power to determine your own worth. And when you do that, that eventually leads to feelings of depression, that leads to anger, that leads to resentment. So interestingly, we feel that these attachments that we have feel more secure when people perceive us in a certain way, when we are doing things that they approve of, and so we feel like that relationship is secure. And momentarily, you might feel good about that, you might feel content with that, you might feel happy about that. But in the long run, that leads to self-betrayal, that leads to self-abandonment. And so what's going to happen is that you eventually are going to resent that person. Why? Because you've given all of your power away to them. Why? Because they get to determine your worth, they get to determine your value. And when they don't see you in a positive way, it's like, okay, I feel great when someone that I care about sees me positively, compliments me, praises me. That makes me feel good about myself. But on the other side of that is there's not always just compliments and praise, right? Sometimes there is criticism, hopefully constructively. If you are with someone who is toxic, dysfunctional, and abusive, then it's not going to be constructively. It might be aggressive. And so just as this person can build you up, they can also tear you down. And that is the danger of people pleasing, approval seeking, and looking for validation outside of yourself. It does not work in the long run, even if it makes you feel better in the short term. The last thing that I have here regarding what happens when your peace and happiness is determined by someone else is one of the most important things, and one that I've said over and over, is that you don't have a sense of inherent worth. Inherent is the word that I use because it's not something that has to be earned. It's not something that someone has to see or give you or tell you. It's not something that you have to be good enough or something that you have to do to gain. It is inherent. It is just a natural, biological, if you are a living human being, if you exist, then you are inherently worthy. So you don't have to seek that outside of anyone else. And once you discover that for yourself, then we tend to care less about what other people think. We tend to connect to ourselves more. We tend to stray away from self-abandonment and self-betrayal. And so instead of seeking validation from others, we learn to give it to ourselves. And that's really the only way to find, I think, true peace and happiness within yourself. No one else can give it to you. And even if they can also take it away. So find that within yourself. And that's all I have today. Let me know in the comment section down below if any of this resonates with you and anything that you want to add about what you've experienced when you've sort of given your power away and look to others in your life to provide a sense of peace and happiness for you. What has that been like? If you have any other questions or ideas for further videos, put that in the comment section down below as well, and I will deliver on that. And thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.